Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and lock your doors. You have entered the world of the unknown. Welcome to the Dead Hour broadcast.
The silence of Blackwood Manor was not an absence of sound. It was a heavy, suffocating presence. It was a silence that had been accumulating for a century, thick like dust on velvet curtains. Elias, a pragmatic sound engineer from London, didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in frequencies, decibels, and acoustics. When he inherited the dilapidated manor in the Scottish Highlands from a great uncle he barely knew, a man rumored to have gone mad searching for the true sound of silence, Elias saw only a real estate opportunity. The drive up was treacherous. The single-track road wound through endless stretches of heather and gray rock, the mist clinging so tightly to the windshield that the world outside seemed to dissolve into a milky void. When Blackwood finally loomed out of the fog, it looked like a jagged black tooth biting into the sky. Elias spent the first day cataloging the decay. The manor was vast, cold, and smelled of damp earth and old paper. But the strangest thing was the architecture. The hallways were curved strangely, the ceilings domed in odd places. His footsteps didn't echo, they were swallowed instantly, absorbed by the walls. It was in the basement that he found his uncle's obsession. It wasn't a dungeon, but a studio. The walls were rotting acoustic foam. Strange, brass, horn-like contraptions were embedded into the stone foundation, their flared ends pointing toward the center of the room where a single, antique leather chair sat. Journals were scattered about, filled with frantic handwriting. "Stone holds memory," one entry read. "Sound never truly dies. It just vibrated below the threshold of human hearing. If I can amplify the residual echoes, I can hear history." Elias scoffed, tossing the book aside. "Mad old coot," he muttered. That night, the silence began to fracture. Elias was sleeping in the master bedroom on the second floor. He woke up at 3:17 a.m., his heart hammering against his ribs. He hadn't heard a noise, he had felt a vibration, a deep sub-bass thrum that resonated in his teeth. He sat up, the absolute silence of the Highlands pressed against the window panes. Then he heard it. Scritch, scritch, tap. It came from inside the walls, like a rat with metallic claws. He grabbed his flashlight and walked into the corridor. The sound stopped instantly. "Hello?" he called out, feeling ridiculous. His voice didn't just fade. It seemed to travel down the curved hallway and then come back, not as an echo, but as a whisper, delayed by 3 seconds. "Hello?" Elias froze. That wasn't how acoustics worked. He cleared his throat. "Wrote?" The house whispered back. He retreated to his room and locked the door, convinced it was a draft playing tricks on the strange architecture. He didn't sleep. The second day brought rain that lashed against the stone walls like whip cracks. He tried to work, but the house was awakening. The sound started subtly. The creak of a floorboard upstairs when he was downstairs. The faint sound of sobbing that sounded like it was coming through a long pipe. By the third night, the mimicking began in earnest. As he brushed his teeth, the sound of the bristles against his enamel was amplified in the room, loud as sawing wood. When he dropped a spoon in the kitchen, the clatter repeated 5 times, each time louder, before abruptly cutting off. He found himself standing in the basement again, staring at the brass horns in the walls. He realized with dawning horror what they were. They weren't recording devices, they were speakers, built into the very foundation of the house. He picked up another journal. The last entry was written in shaky script. "I was wrong. It doesn't just hold memory, it learns. It's lonely, and now it has my voice." A sound came from the brass horn behind him. It was a wet cough. His cough. Elias spun around. "Who's there?" The horns around the room crackled to life, speaking in a chaotic chorus of whispered voices. "Who's there? Mad old coot, acoustics, frequencies. It was regurgitating everything he had said since arriving, chopping the words up and remixing them into a cacophony of nonsense. The sound grew deafening, vibrating the floorboards. The house was screaming his own thoughts back at him. He ran. He bolted up the stairs, the sounds chasing him. The slamming of doors he hadn't touched, the sound of his own panicked breathing amplified to a roar. He reached the heavy oak front door and yanked the handle. Locked. He hadn't locked it. Locked, whispered the air vent above his head. He ran to the drawing room window and smashed the glass with a fireplace poker. The storm outside roared in, but it was quieter than the noise inside. He tumbled out onto the wet grass, cutting his hands, and didn't stop running until he reached his car. He sped down the twisting driveway, tires slipping on the mud. He glanced back in the rearview mirror. Blackwood Manor stood silent against the lightning. Elias never went back. He sold the property for a fraction of its worth to a developer who planned to turn it into a hotel. A month later, Elias was back in his London sound studio, mixing a track for a pop singer. He wore heavy noise-canceling headphones, needing the artificial silence. He finished the mix and pulled the headphones off, sighing of relief. The studio was perfectly soundproofed, dead silent. And then, from the corner of the room where the bass trap stood, a floorboard creaked, and a whisper, delayed by 3 seconds, drifted across the room in a voice that wasn't quite his own anymore.
The story ends here, but the fear remains. If you want to survive the night, hit that subscribe button. And remember, don't look under your bed tonight.